So Mallory, I'm very excited to have this conversation with you because this is what we do every single day with hopeful adoptive parents. We help create profile books to present to expecting families to considering adoption.
Yeah.
So what would be your biggest tip to start with when they're starting their book process?
I would say be authentic, be vulnerable, show your personality. This is your family, and you get one shot to have a conversation with an expectant parent who's getting to know you guys. And so being that authentic, raw self will help her connect with you on a deeper level. So don't hide who you are. If faith is an important part of your family, showcase that. Have Bible verses or talk about your church family. Talk about how that's important for you and your children in your lives. If sports or outdoors are important to you, have that be a part of your book. We can implement that with design as well. And so when you have pictures and you have words and then you have the design coming together, she's going to be able to get a really good overall picture of who you guys are. And I would say don't make the book sterile. I know sometimes it can be really overwhelming to have this expectant mom that you don't know, or expectant parents that you don't know that you're writing to, and not knowing exactly what to say. But be so authentic that we have to take some stuff out so that we can make sure that she gets to know you guys as well as she can in the book.
Yeah, I always tell clients to put your heart on paper and write, get it out there, and then we can always tailor it back.
Right.
We'd rather have to cut things, like you said, than to draw more out of you. We want those details. Having been in her shoes, you want those details in there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's part of our job. We help copyright the book for you. And so the editing and the process of eliminating certain things or adding in certain things, we can help with. But we need to know you guys before we can do any of that. And plus, you have an English degree, so it's really nice to have that level of expertise on the team.
Yeah, I love it. It's so fun.
Yeah. So I know a lot of families don't know where to start with their book and what to share. Can you share with us what some expectant parents might be looking for in their book?
Well, first of all, I'm just one birth mom, and what I was looking for was different than what another birth mom would have looked for. And so for some people, that might be a family that only has one child, or they might want a bigger family, or they might want no children involved, or they might want faith involved, or a different, just the culture they live in could be something they're looking for. So everybody has their own checklist, and what I looked for is different than what another person's looking for. So keep that in mind as you're writing, that your job is just to write your life and show your life as it authentically is, and the right person will be drawn to you because of that. And like you said, not hiding those important things, like whether you homeschool or go hunting, for the right person that could draw them to you for that very same reason.
Right. I mean, a lot of people say this is where you start the trust process, because if she does decide to get to know you more, and then she decides to walk through her pregnancy with you, and then ultimately if she decides to place, her trust is being started right here in your book. So if you're not authentic with her, and then she finds out later that you have certain things that you enjoy or don't enjoy, and she didn't know about that, she might feel like you misrepresented yourself in a way.
Absolutely. I feel like the letter that I read from the adoptive parents I chose were just the beginning process of that. And when we went to have our interview, it just built upon that. And our whole relationship started really because of that piece of paper that they wrote to me. And it's important to start it and be authentic from the very beginning.
Exactly. That's so important. So we talk to clients and they wonder, what do they need to include in the hello and the promise letter? That can be a hard thing to write. You don't know what to say or not to say, and can oftentimes become sterile because of things that you're worried about saying. How would you suggest that they go about addressing those letters?
Yeah, I hear this a lot in our phone calls with our clients, that it is the scariest thing to write, and it's really the first time that they're hearing your voice and getting to know them. And really just keep in mind that this is a place to welcome her into your life and into your book, and whether that is just for this the moment that she's reading it, or it's for a lifetime. This is the beginning. And so I know that's a lot of pressure, but it can be done in such a beautiful way that's not typical and tired and sterile, like you said, and it can just be a place for you to love on her. And really that's what our goal is, to love on her through your words here, and to share your heart with her, and that you see her as a person and not just a vessel carrying her, possibly your child, but that she's a person too with feelings, and you can validate those hard feelings and try to put yourself in her shoes as much as you can. If you've experienced loss, that can come in here of just acknowledging that grief that you know that she may be feeling, and that you've walked hard things too. It can be a place to bless her and to love on her. And so you want it to be mostly about her and not about yourself and why you want to adopt, and just focus on her and her heart.
Yeah, just being honoring and respectful through your letters. And the hello letter is a great place, like you said, to welcome her in and love on her. And so we encourage a lot of our clients, make this about 95% about her. So you've got to figure out, and we'll help you figure out a way to implement what you want to say to her, and understand that she is considering adoption, but she hasn't chosen it yet. This is a opportunity for you to acknowledge that to her. And then the promise letter is a good way to do that as well.
Yeah, the promise letter is, I call them like the bookends. It wraps up the whole book, and it's a place to, again, focus on what you can provide this child potentially and to her. And even if you don't have an open adoption, it can still be a place where you promise to honor how you talk about her and respect her role and her position in the child's life, and that you will always talk about her in a loving way, and that you will share their story with their child and raise them in their culture as much as possible with foods, or just talking about where they came from, and in general too, talking about what you promise any child, of to raise them in a certain faith, or to raise them to love adventure, to be loved unconditionally, and that just those, as you parent, what you would want to, how you would want to raise them.
Yeah, and the small details as well. We've had clients who say, you know, we want to make sure that we read to them at night, or that we're going to be there for the softball and the volleyball games, and those little details and then the big details can all make a good overall picture for her to envision what life would be like.
But not specific enough that it has to be able to fit in any adoption situation, because one situation that you present to could have a different open adoption versus another situation where it wouldn't be healthy to. And just navigating what those gray areas are. So you have to be considering all that. And we help you navigate all this throughout our process.
That's our job.
Can you share why it would be important to have both professional pictures and the everyday candid pictures in the profile book?
Absolutely. I know this can be a difficult thing. People don't like pictures sometimes. I know I don't want to go and get pictures, but it's a really important aspect to have a balance of professional and then candid everyday life photos. We want the expectant parent to be able to see the things that you enjoy, just like you would display that in your words, but giving them a visual to connect with will let them see your personality, the love that you have between each other, the enjoyments you have with hobbies, if your kids play sports or if you play sports, different things like that is so unique and will help tie her into knowing what life can potentially be like for her child. And then also with the professional photos, it offers the balance within your book. It also offers a visual balance that polishes your book and helps it be elevated compared to another book that she might be presented to. Because when you think about it, we are drawn visually to things first. If you're at the grocery store and you see a magazine, or if you're at the doctor's office and you see a book on the table, or a commercial, anything like that, we're drawn to things visually first, and then if it appeals to us, we want to pick it up. We want to look at the other pictures. We want to look at the words and read those and take those in. So having those professional photos in your key areas will help draw her into your book, but then the candids will give her a good glimpse of your life.
Yeah, and when I was 16 and an expectant mom looking at profile books at 7 months pregnant, that was what I was drawn to first, was
Right.
looking through their pictures and getting a sense of who they look like. And they happened to look like my family. So like, for me, that was a clue of, oh, she would kind of blend in.
Yeah.
And they also had the same kind of dog that I had grown up with. So that was a visual clue to me of like, my daughter could grow up with that. And then I also wanted to choose a family that already had a son, so that I knew that she would grow up with a sibling. And so there's one picture that always has stood out in my mind over the last 15 years. And one picture was their son and the dog that looked like mine, looking out the window, waiting for their dad to come home. And so that, just the one image, told me that she would have a dad that she would love and would be present in her life, and she would have that. She would have the brother I wanted her to have, and the same kind of dog. And so you never know what details will draw you in, and those pictures are very important to be those visual clues as well.
Absolutely. And didn't you mention at one point that they gave you a gift at the hospital?
They did, because of that same dog.
Yeah.
Yes.
The charm on the bracelet. It's
Yeah.
just a great way to tie that whole connection and trust and building that relationship together.
Yes.
I know a lot of photographers also offer mini shoots. So it's another financial aspect to your book and the adoption process. And I understand that that can be difficult. But a lot of photographers will offer a mini shoot session where you can get 15 to 20 photos depending on the photographer, and that'll be enough for what we need in the book, because we only use them in key areas.
The cover, or the back cover. Yeah.
Sprinkled throughout. And so that can be a less cost than a full shoot, but still give us what we need.
Yeah.
So it's just something to consider when you're doing
And
your
consider having variety of poses, not just
Yes.
cute, coupley, romantic ones, but some individual, for maybe for the individual pages where you're talking about yourself, or doing things together. We've seen drinking coffee together, making food together.
Yeah.
And you can have them in your home, so it's more of a lifestyle kind of shoot.
Yeah.
And there's lots of ways to.
Being at a park in the city, we have a couple who loves color, and they found a super vibrant wall in their city, and it was so fun to see their pictures. So get different ideas. Just don't have the cute smiling at the
Get
camera.
your personality in there.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So why would it be important to have a professional design your book?
Well, besides the fact that you get both of us, you get the expertise of an adoptee and then a birth mom speaking into the conversation with you and walking alongside you throughout this journey to create your book.
And beyond.
Yeah.
We love staying in touch.
Yes. We have an awesome community outside of the book process. But with the book, we allow you to text us, email us, call us anytime you want. You have an hour phone call with you that they can talk about their fears, their concerns, their book. Just having a voice and listening from a expectant parent, birth parent perspective on what they should or shouldn't include in their book, and how to build that relationship and have healthy boundaries. And so it's not just about your book for us. We want to be people who come alongside you and walk this path with you, because it's a lifelong journey. Another thing that's really important is many of our clients get chosen from 1 to 3 presentations when they present to an expectant parent. We've had clients who we've talked to, it's been a great conversation, they decide to do their book, and then they come back to us a year later and we redo it, and they get chosen really quickly. And that's not to say that they weren't who they were authentically in their book, but just having that put together feel, and a way that the design isn't distracting from your pictures, it's not distracting from your words. An expectant parent can get to know you through the photos and the wording without all of these different elements. We help with all of that. We help bring those really important design elements and photos and wording just together so that you have a perfect book in the end.
Right. It's very, very important to the expectant mom to get like you said, that polished version of who you are, and having that education throughout the process is beneficial, not just for the book process, but for the lifelong journey that you will have with her one day.
Yeah, you can implement all of those through pre and post placement conversations, which is a huge deal. The more education, the better. What are some things you would suggest when writing the book? Do you have any tips on that?
Absolutely. We talk about this with every phone call. The first thing would be to start with the first person throughout your book, of using words like I and we, so it feels like a personal conversation as she is reading this book. The only exception might be the individual pages where you might have the spouses write about each other, because it become it's again more personal, and it might be easier for the other person to write about the spouse, because sometimes you don't want to write things about yourself or it feels awkward. And so there also might be things that your husband might write about you that you wouldn't write about yourself, so they observe how you are with people around you, or caring for children, or with your family, and they can speak into those things that you might not write about yourself.
Yeah, that can be an uncomfortable thing to share about yourself sometimes. So we encourage, if you're comfortable, to write about the other person, because that offers a little bit more intimate perspective when it comes to your book.
It's a great way for your spouse to kind of love on you, and vice versa, and just again show that relationship and love that you have for each other too, of how you admire each other. That can speak a lot to the expectant parent who's looking for that stability and that love for their child.
Yeah, having a solid marriage through seeing that is important. Another thing I've heard us talk about with our clients is make sure that when you're talking about the child, not to claim that baby as your own, because it's not. It's her child, and she's still considering adoption. And so just letting her know that you support her and you see her, and you are there if she chooses to pursue an adoption plan with you, and then if she ultimately decides to place.
Yeah, absolutely. And so using phrases like your child, because it is her child, throughout the book, and not saying our child or any of that kind of stuff. That would be coercive, baby claiming language that we want to avoid, and having an ethical conversation. And so really just giving her that space to look at you as an option, and to not feel any of that pressuring, coercive, cringy language. And that, again, that's what we are here for. We help from our view, especially mine as the expectant parent. I've been in her shoes, and so there's some things that may be common phrases in the adoption community that show up, and it, for people who are on the other side, it can feel cringy. So we look for those things, and we educate on that, and why we make those changes, and using positive adoption language throughout. We help tailor all that and help you.
Yeah, I love that part of our job, being able to help write and share who you are, but also to educate. That's just a really fun part of being able to get to know you as a family, but also so that you're set up for success in the adoption journey.
Absolutely. So we've covered this a little bit in this session, but tell me again why design is so important for the profile books.
Yeah, so the design part of it, you have to think about who's viewing your book. We want to have elements that represent you, but we also want to connect with who is going to be viewing the book, and that demographic is the millennial demographic, but also the Gen Z demographic, and they're very visual people. They like more simple, modern design. They like things that are clean and crisp, and so we will help convey who you are through your style, but also make sure that we're doing it in a tasteful way that will connect with an expectant parent, because we don't want to be like a scrapbook coffee table piece. That can feel like your grandma's house a little bit, and to the demographic that you're going to be having view your book, that can be a bit of a turnoff. And so a design element is super important to the three major things that an expectant parent will be looking at.
What are those three major things?
The three major things are the photos, the wording that you share, and then the design. So all of those kind of come together and make sure that there is a good visual and feel to the book, and that's how connection happens.
Okay, awesome. If you do decide to pursue a professional to design your adoption profile book, we would love to help you. You get an hour phone call with me to help you through this process, through the writing and pulling out those important details, any questions you have, the fears. You get a phone call with Mallory to talk through the design part, and you get access to us through the whole process, through texting. We have a private Facebook group that we can continue the education process, and just we want to be on this lifelong journey with you.
So our packages come with a digital copy. They come with printed books at whatever amount that your consultant, agency, or attorney may need. But we can also customize any package for you. We have 2 standard packages on our website at arrowandroot.org, but those are always customizable. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask.